What's up, Ram fans? CTV Sports is back to give you the rundown on everything athletics. I'm Leah Cackowski.
And I'm Madeline Davis. Here's what we have on tap for the night.
The green and gold took the field for the first time this season with a roaring Canvas crowd right behind them, while volleyball began their lengthy span of games on the road.
Not to mention women's soccer is off to a never-before-seen start to the season. Lastly, Nolan Teubel is joining us to give an in-depth look at the skateboarding community here in Fort Collins.
All of that and more on CTV Sports, which starts right now.
We'll start tonight with the elephant in the room. The CSU Rams' less than ideal performance on Saturday afternoon against the Washington State Cougars. After what was a rough first season for Jay Norvell, Ram fans were hoping for a quick bounce back and a dub for the home opener, but well, that didn't happen, as the Rams fell to the Cougars 24-50. This game was immensely CSU, as we saw the Rams score a field goal early and then proceed to seemingly never make it back to the red zone until it was too late. Honestly, we could spend the whole show talking about what the Rams could have done to change the result of this one, but at this point, I think it's more important to talk about the positives. When looking at the stats, the shining moment of this game for the Rams was definitely the fourth quarter. The quarter started off strong for the Rams, where we saw a new Ram transfer, Kobe Johnson, run the ball 98 yards for a touchdown. CSU went on to score 2 more touchdowns in the quarter, both of which were pretty impressive and made Ram fans wonder who should really be the starting QB. Clay Millen was pulled from the game in the third quarter after taking a pretty hard hit and was replaced with Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, who arguably had a better outing in one quarter than Millen had for the entire game. Fowler-Nicolosi went 13 for 20 with 210 total passing yards that included 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Millen, on the other hand, went 15 for 24 with only 110 total passing yards and 1 interception. And once again, let's keep in mind that Millen played for more than half the time of Fowler-Nicolosi, and yet Fowler-Nicolosi still managed to have almost twice as many passing yards as Millen. So the race for that QB1 spot could be heating up. While fans are very disappointed and upset with the outcome on the field, Coach Norvell is choosing to focus on the positive, as he said this after the game.
We gotta put ourselves in position to use our playmakers better, and we got really good players. Torrey and Dallin and on offense and our other receivers. I gotta do a better job getting them involved in the game early.
The Rams will have a bye week this week before what is arguably the most anticipated matchup of the season. We will see the Rams travel down to Boulder to take on Deion Sanders and the rest of the Buffs for the return of the Rocky Mountain Showdown. So Leah, what did you see in this game on Saturday?
To me, I just saw disappointment. I think fans were really coming into this one with such high expectations. There was all that talk about the offseason and all the transfers that we got, but now I'm like, what is it going to take? That's just where I'm at.
Yeah, it's going to be after seeing CU take the dub against TCU. It's a little nerve-wracking as a CSU fan going into this next one.
I think we had a lot of high hopes and we'll see where it goes, maybe even. But now I'm like, after that amazing performance they had against TCU, I'm a little more worried.
Yeah, but again, the Rams have 11 days until the Rocky Mountain Showdown returns.
And yeah, Madeline, Colorado State Volleyball had another busy week as they faced 4 opponents on the road. Starting off with Northern Colorado, this one hurt the most. In-state rivalries always have more emotions, especially when the green and gold were outliers this time. The Rams started off great, leading 2-1. However, the Bears didn't seem to settle, coming back in what seemed to be 2 never-ending sets to seal the deal. Both of these squads came into this one outing sitting at 1-2, and it showed because look how close this really was. Both of these squads came into this one. In reality, the Rams only took the cake in blocks, where UNC barely scraped by in everything else. Kennedy Stanford led the way for Colorado State, with Malaya Jones and Annie Sullivan just right behind her with their combined 42 kills. Mackenzie Harris on the other side was the reason the Bears stayed with it, dominating on offense and defense. UNC is always a battle, and the Rams only had a few days rest before traveling into SEC territory, facing number 21 Arkansas. And you guessed it, this one was just as close. The best way to put it was an absolute back-and-forth battle, each squad trading off in sets. Arkansas struck first and unfortunately got the last laugh as well, winning 3-2 in the 5th set. In the end, they just had a better ball placement, coming out on top with a whopping 11 aces. Looking at the stats, I can't believe the Rams didn't come away with this win, because they literally bested the Razorbacks in every category that mattered, except serving. However, their team leaders were just better. CSU Achilles heel being Taylor Head, putting up 23 kills for Arkansas. Wow, that was a lot of heartbreak in such a short span. I can't remember the Rams having such a tough out-of-conference schedule right off the bat like this. And for the majority, they've been right there in it. With that, Madeline, were they able to turn around in the second half?
Well, Leah, the Rams most definitely did turn it around in the second half of their road trip, where they managed to pick up 2 5-set wins against 2 strong clubs in Michigan and Central Arkansas. The Rams had quite the trip that saw them play 4 away matches in 6 days, 3 of which were back-to-back-to-back. The second half of the trip started with Michigan, and let me tell you, if you look at the stats, you would have never guessed that the Rams came out on top, as the Wolverines were leading in every statistical category aside from blocks. But it just shows that numbers don't have to tell the whole story. The very next day, the Rams had a matchup with the Sugar Bears of Central Arkansas, and once again, this one came down to the wire. The Rams were perhaps a little tired, as this was not only their 3rd match in 5 days, but all 3 previous matches had gone to 5 sets. And well, this one was no different. Numbers-wise, this was a much more even matchup, and the stat that stands out the most was definitely the Rams' 11 aces. The Rams will finally be back home later this week when they host the Ram Volleyball Classic, which features teams such as Bowling Green, Pacific, and number 16 Baylor. So Leah, obviously, that was a big week.
It was.
We got another big week coming up. What do you think the Rams need to do to stay on this one?
Well, I'll save a little bit because I know we're going to be discussing this a little bit later in the show. But I think, again, they've faced so many top teams. They got to have at least one. Like, I know they're going to be playing Baylor, and I think that's going to finally get their momentum continuing going on. What about you?
I sure hope so. I think they just need to keep their confidence up.
I think so, too. Like, we clearly are meant to be here. We have the players that can do it. It's just these big teams, we can't let it get to our heads.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, I definitely agree. But that is enough about volleyball. Let's switch to another women's sport. I am extremely excited about the winningest group on campus, none other than CSU women's soccer. They have completely turned it around from seasons past because this is their best program start in history, and the win that sealed the deal was against Kansas City. Overall, Colorado State was just more aggressive, having a whopping 10 shots on goal versus MKC's 3. There were no penalties in this game, but home field advantage continues to benefit, as Mia Casey scored in the 52nd minute to secure the dub. CSU travels up to the Big Sky Country this Thursday to compete against the Montana Grizzlies. This will put the Rams to test for sure, as UM is riding on a 2-game win streak, as well with a 5-0-1 record. But of course, we're going to have to just wait and see. And okay, Madeline, speaking of winning streaks, tell us about cross country.
Football was not the only team to compete on Saturday, as cross country was up in Cheyenne for the Wyoming Invite. Needless to say, they had a little better of a Saturday than football, as they managed to repeat last year's results and secure first place on the women's side and second place on the men's. Outdoor Mountain West champ Sarah Carter placed first overall with a time of 17:40.2 and helped lead the Rams to victory on the women's side. Mason Brown was the top performer for the men, placing second overall with a time of 15:12.0. The Rams left this one feeling comfortable and confident. They will now have some time before heading off to Minnesota for the Roy Girac in a couple weeks. We will keep you updated on their scores all year long. Now, let's take a break, Rams, but don't go anywhere, though, as we still have some basketball news and a special feature from Nolan Teubel.
Living with someone you don't know on the other side of the wall is hard, especially if you don't know how to be a good roommate. The first thing that you'll want to do to be a good roommate is make sure that you always stay quiet. Be considerate of others when using common spaces and appliances.
Hey buddy, what you doing?
I'm just gonna need like 40 minutes. Be respectful of your roommate's privacy.
Ugh, my bad.
Finally, make sure that you clean up after yourself. Oh, fresh toothbrush.
Have you seen my toothbrush?
Follow these tips to get along with your roommates and your landlord.
Rams. While men's basketball doesn't tip off until the winter months, we still have some news. The non-conference schedule was just released this morning, and there are some pretty intriguing matchups.
For sure. Some matchups to watch out for. The Rams start in early November with 2 games in Moby against Louisiana Tech and Wright State. But those 2 aren't the only teams coming to Moby this year.
Yeah, most notable is the return of Boulder to the schedule, which should be one of the most attended games of the year. And on that same tune, St. Mary's and Denver both come back to Fort Collins for back-to-back games in early December.
So a pretty exciting lineup for the home games so far, with some of the away games including teams like Northern Colorado and Washington.
An evenly set schedule, but we'll just have to wait and see. But now, Rams, we're going to hear from our feature reporter, Nolan, about the skate park. Nolan?
Thanks, Leah. My name is Nolan Teubel, and it is almost impossible to walk the streets of Northern Colorado without spotting a few street skaters. NOCO's high respect towards the sport has influenced a new generation that display their toughness every time they get on their board. I was fortunate to talk to some of the NOCO skaters, and they might just make you rethink how brutal but rewarding the sport can be.
At the core of Northern Colorado is street skating, and skaters in the area take every advantage of the friendly community that NOCO has established. With a high density of public skate parks and a large skate culture, Colorado has been a beacon for skaters to get out and enjoy the sport.
In one word, the skate culture is rad. It's an art and a sport. It just doesn't get any better than this. In other sports, there's always like competition. There is in skateboarding, but this sport's more of a friendship. I mean, I have like friends that I'll call my brothers now because of a piece of wood, I think there's a stereotype that people have that like skaters always drink, skaters always smoke or vandalize. But I mean, I think there's a side of the skate community that not everyone sees, and that's the friendship.
Culture in Colorado is very different from Chicago, so it's definitely a lot more accepting out here. Even if you're not that good, they'll still they'll skate with you and teach you some stuff.
Skating has the potential for injury, but when you love something enough, the consequences don't seem as brutal.
Oh man, I was in the ER like 3 days ago because I destroyed my ribs. I was going up and I slammed on a rail and it just, thought I broke my ribs. The doctors were worried about my spleen, but I'm all good. So that's why I'm shredding today. Yeah, I mean, you're always gonna fall, you're always gonna get hurt, but you're always gonna land the trick. And then the hype from the people, your homies, I mean, the clip after, it's a feeling that I've got nowhere else. Skating is it's my first love and I'll love it forever.
It was rad talking to people who truly made me feel like they had no fear. Watching them get up after falling with a smile on their face, already anticipating how they could do better, was incredible. I'm excited to see what the future holds for street skaters and the skate culture that really is consuming NOCO. Now, Rams, we're going to head to another break, but stay tuned as we make our predictions for a slate of 5 games from various sports.
Awkward. Do I look familiar? I should. You might remember me from here. Here. Or maybe even here.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
It can actually be a perfect moment to reach out to a friend and ask if they're okay if they seem down.
Doesn't matter how you say it.
You all right?
Everything's okay?
Oh, gee.
You all right, girl?
Oh,
You cool?
you bugging dog.
Just show you're there for them.
Go on, Kelly. Susie Awkward.
Hey, you haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back from the break, Rams. And now it's time for the last segment of the show, Pick'ems. We'll be given a select amount of games and tell you our predictions for how each of them is going to go.
That's right, Leah. So let's get right into it. First, we are starting off with some women's volleyball matches. In the first one, we have got some heavyweights. What do you guys think will happen? For this one, we've got number 5 Minnesota versus, or is it number 5 Minnesota? Yeah, number 5 Minnesota versus
number 5 Stanford versus
number
10 Minnesota.
Yes.
Yep, and I 100% have Stanford winning this one. They have power, they have consistency, and most importantly, they're a team that prides themselves on efficiency. They don't make a lot of errors. The first time they looked human is when they played Florida, and then they came back and beat number 7 Texas 3-0. I mean, this is a team that has playmakers. I mean, when you have someone, Kendall Kipp, 6'5", she can absolutely destroy the ball.
She's crazy.
You have to be able to stop that, and that is huge. I just don't think Minnesota has the talent to do this.
Yeah, I mean Minnesota. If you look at what they've done recently, they're on a 2-match losing streak. They lost to both Texas and Florida,
who are great teams.
Yes, who are phenomenal teams. But I mean, as we saw, Florida. I'm surprised they're not ranked higher than they are. They swept Stanford. I believe they swept Minnesota as well. And so, I mean, both of these teams are no doubtedly top teams. This could easily be a 5-set match, but I also have Stanford. Especially we got to see them firsthand. They are a strong team. I mean, like you were saying, Kendall Kipp, All-American. They have 2 All-Americans on that team right now. They're strong.
Well, each team definitely has height, like Minnesota does too. But at the same, like Stanford got swept by Florida, but then they came back to sweep Texas. So it's kind of, they have the upper hand for sure.
They're reigning champs.
Yeah, exactly. Like Minnesota did not do as well because, again, they got swept by Texas. So I think we're all in agreement here that we're going with Stanford.
Yep, especially at home. I just don't see Minnesota taking this.
I don't think so either. And yeah, again, they're on a 2-game losing streak and then have to go on the road again, play there. I don't think they have it. So yeah. Now that we got those 2 top 5 teams out of the way, let's step back into the local scene where CSU takes on number 14 ranked Baylor. Who do you guys have on this one, Nolan?
So I have CSU. CSU is going to have to play a perfect game to pull this off. They've had 4 straight games that have gone to 5 sets.
Yep.
All of them, they were so close.
Yep.
I mean, they're not getting blown out. It's just a few points, and if they could keep the momentum in those games, I mean, we could have won all 4 of these games.
I agree.
So I think with it being at home, Baylor does have a great team. They haven't started the season too great, have played some amazing teams, and I think that's probably why, but CSU needs to go into this game with confidence and know that they can win this game. And if they do that and play consistently and play how they have been, I think they have a real chance at this one.
I kind of came into this one honestly leaning towards Baylor, but I am going to go with CSU because, first of all, Baylor actually just got swept by Minnesota too. There's been a lot of sweeping going on down there, and we're at home. Like to lose to UNC, that's still, again, like I said, that one hurt the most for me because we had that and we were away. So, and again, when we have Moby on our side, obviously things are different. And we gotta we gotta beat one. We gotta at least have something under our belt knowing we're beating a top 15 program at least. And I think this is gonna be the perfect opportunity to do it because, they've been more inconsistent. So I think CSU has this one.
I agree. I also think that this is CSU's match to take. If you looked last year, they almost, I believe they didn't get swept by Baylor. It was either 4 or 5 sets. And honestly, I think that CSU is more confident and stronger this year than they were last year.
I think so too.
They're at Moby once again, and they'll have the match against Bowling Green underneath them, presuming that one goes how we expect it to go, which I think we all expect that one to be a little bit of an easier win, perhaps not a 5-setter. We'll see though. And so I think that they'll have momentum on their side. And I mean, Baylor probably will as well. They'll probably beat Pacific. But I think that, with it being at Moby, the Rams will want revenge from last year. They're a strong team. As long as they stay confident and they play to what we know they can play to, I think that CSU will be able to take this one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yep.
And now CSU will have their work cut out for them, but at least it is at home, so maybe Moby Madness could play a big part in this. But let's make a quick switch, though, and move to some college football. And I know Madeline doesn't love talking about them, but they did have a huge win, and CSU does match up with them next week. So, guys, who takes this, Nebraska or Boulder?
Madeline, you want to start us off?
I guess. I'm gonna go with Nebraska. I know that's a controversial take, but I'm also gonna say something a little controversial here too. But like, I know that Boulder beat TCU, and that's a strong team. But I mean, look at Wyoming. They also beat a top 25 team. Is Wyoming ranked this week? I don't think so. I think pretty much the only reason that Boulder is ranked is because they have that big name and they have the attention. And so in Nebraska, there is nothing to do in Nebraska. You know that people are going to show out for that game.
That's true.
Nebraska, man, they love their football there.
They do.
I think it's going to be a test. And if CU comes out on top, okay, yeah, they're a good team. But I think that Nebraska, they're coming off a rough loss, and so I think they've got a little bit of fire under them.
I couldn't disagree with you more on this one. I think this game is going to be a slaughter. I think CU is going to come in here and show us again that they're not a gimmick. Like, we have Shooter Sanders throwing 510 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Like, this kid can ball. Like, this kid is
He's got game.
And then we have Travis Hunter, who I think he played 129 snaps, an interception, and then had 119 receiving yards.
Yeah, he's a two-way player.
That's crazy. Like, Deion Sanders is coming into this program and completely turning them around. 1-11 team, and now we're even considering, like, they're a ranked team. Like, this, as much as it stinks, like, as a CSU student, like, this team can play, and I'm so excited to see what they're going to do. And I really think this is going to be a blowout win for CU.
Nolan, I agree with you. I think the thing is, Sanders having now the all-time single-game record with passing yards, that's crazy. And, okay, all of us, coming into the year, like, is Boulder legit? I think they're freaking legit now. Like, I think that they are a legit team. And, again, Nebraska losing to Minnesota. Minnesota, man, we're really talking about Minnesota today. That was a brutal loss too. But like you said, I mean, Madeline, you do have a good point of there will be a lot of Nebraska fans there because it's close and there isn't much to do there. But with that, Boulder's first home game with all of the buzz that they've been having this last week, I think CU students are going to be insane there. Like, I know a Boulder crowd, and I think it's not even going to be fair. And so, in my opinion, I think Boulder is going to blow this one out, and then that just leaves us with the remains the following week. But I think I'm going to take Boulder on this one.
Okay, yeah. I'm happy to leave that discussion and move on to a new one. But this time, we are talking about 2 highly ranked programs in Alabama and Texas. Are the Horns going to be down or come up on Saturday night? I feel like we're all pretty much in consensus about this one. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's no doubt Alabama. That's just my opinion. And I think if they were in Texas, but again, they were in Texas last year, and Alabama won by 1 point. So with that Crimson Tide, for me, number 4, Texas is 11. I think Alabama has it.
Yeah, I have Texas on this one.
Oh, I actually thought you said Alabama. Okay.
No, game 1, their defense looked almost unstoppable. Their D-line is crazy. They have some big boys on that D-line.
True.
So it is going to be a trouble for their running backs to get going. So if they can keep Alabama's offense to a game of under 25 points, I think Texas wins this game. They do have talent. They have their quarterbacks returning. He had a fantastic game. So I think this one's going to Texas.
Okay, Madeline.
Interesting. Yeah, I also chose Alabama. I mean, it's unbelievably hard to go in there and win a game. I mean, you could argue that it's maybe the most difficult place in college sports to win a game. And so, I mean, I think that these are 2 very, very good teams.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't doubt that this could be a close game. And if Texas wins, I'm not going to be surprised. Yeah. But it's so hard to root against Alabama when they're at home.
Well, this game is always really hyped up at, rivalry. So I think either way, I think it's going to be a close game, but I do think Alabama is going to end up taking it at home because I couldn't imagine being on the other team and coming in there because it's brutal. So that one should hopefully be entertaining, and maybe an upset is due. Who knows? But for now, the first time this semester, we're going to talk about the Broncos. Denver has their very first game of the season this Sunday against the Raiders. So who do you guys have taking the home opener? Nolan?
So I have the Raiders.
Oh!
Unfortunately, with the way Broncos played last season, they need to prove to me that they can play as a team. They did not have a good year at all.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson had the lowest completion percentage of his career.
I know.
He had 15 touchdowns compared to 11 interceptions. That's a 5-gap margin. That is horrible, to say the least. And they only had 2 players with over 500 receiving yards.
Yeah.
Their offense did not get it going. They did not run the ball great. They didn't have that good of a defense. So to me, the Raiders, they still have Josh Jacobs. They're getting Garoppolo, who we don't know is going to play, but I have the Raiders taking this one.
Yeah. Madeline?
You have a lot of audacity coming in Broncos country and saying the Raiders are going to take it. And honestly, that's kind of the only reason I do have the Broncos taking this one, is because I've been raised to hate a couple teams, and one of those is the Raiders.
That's
and
true.
I think the Broncos, I think they need to prove themselves, and I think there's no better opponent to do that than versus the Raiders.
Madeline, I agree with you. I mean, growing up here, it's like you got to be a Raiders hater. And
exactly.
The thing is, though, while the Broncos may have been 5-12 last year, it's not like the Raiders were anything special. They were 6-11, and you were telling me, I know they were closer games. Like the Broncos did get, shut out a lot more. But the thing is, Russell Wilson knows what needs to happen this year. Like the fact, it was unexcusable what happened last year. Everybody in the organization knows it, and I think this will be the game to prove it. And I mean, if he does it now, okay, well then we got to do a whole rebuild situation, because then I don't know what will work.
Brought in a new coach though.
Yeah.
It's a new environment there.
Totally.
Exactly. Like, I mean, it's gonna be, both teams are pretty different, to be honest. So it's gonna be interesting.
And really, this game's going to be a test for Denver's defense.
True.
You got Josh Jacobs, arguably one of the best running backs. So it's going to be a test for their defense for sure.
I think it'll also kind of set the tone for the league, just because the Broncos haven't been good in a while.
Since 2015, since they won the Super Bowl.
It kind of it's time. It's time for a change. It's Nuggets are here. We got the Avs. Like let's go. Like. We won't talk about the Rockets. That'll be another time. But I think the Broncos will have their time this year, and I think they're going to take it on Sunday.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. And well, Rams, that is all the sports news that we have for you tonight. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another edition of our variety shows. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great night.